Hi, давай, 3, 2, 1. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. It's very late in the night after the Three Seas Initiative, the 10th edition, held in Warsaw, Poland. And the first one where I'm not attending.
Yes.
We had the youth division attending.
We are transitioning towards a more youth, youth progressive format.
At some point I thought of making him transition.
Right.
Because younglings make mistakes.
They do. So, first let's start with the main news. So, because anything we say will be mainstream news maybe for a few years from now. That usually is the thing whenever we're accepted to a Three Seas Initiative summit. Then we talk about what happened, and then a few years later is breaking news.
Yeah, the mainstream media creates breaking news from news that we gave you.
Yeah, well, they usually realize that there is a project of a highway in the Intermarium area because they see the highway, and that's when they're like, oh, okay, what's with this thing?
Right, so the example being with Via Carpatica, which is now
almost done.
Well, not really.
It's 50%.
Well, yeah, 50%.
50% in Poland.
Yes, and 40% in Romania, and 0 in Hungary,
and Slovakia.
And Slovakia.
And Bulgaria.
Well, the Bulgarians were not involved in this one because it's supposed to connect Gdansk.
No, but they have another one.
Yeah, the extension.
Yeah,
but then in Bulgaria they didn't have a government until like 5 minutes ago. So.
True.
There had to have been someone to authorize it, and
Bulgarians stole our elections.
Yeah,
completely.
They've had all of the elections for the whole of Intermarium. Right. What are the three breaking news from this summit? I suppose
the pressure to extend Via Carpathia. Basically, our dear government didn't do enough.
Nope.
They're pressuring the Romanian government to work a bit faster on extending, on basically creating parts of Via Carpathia and extending some parts of it in Slovakia.
And given that there was also representatives from Spain attending the summit right after the blackout, there was the main talk, if we are to believe the informal talk that we had with the Romanian president.
Terms and conditions
may apply. But if we are to believe him, basically the main talk, the main issue, the main focus was energy. And setting up new energy routes and building more energy infrastructure, more energy points.
Yeah, it was a sad thing that we couldn't ask questions at the press conference at the end, because I wanted my colleague to ask Andrzej Duda how Poland is going to face the pressure from Brussels. To transition to green energy while creating new energy highways for gas and all that. But we found the answer while listening to the informal talks. Basically, let's put it like as in breaking news. The opinion of the press officer was like, we will pretend we heard them.
Pretty much. And, this also comes when, in the context of the American official coming in here and actually stating that the whole Intermarium area, the whole Three Seas Initiative, should actually move away from the energy transition proposed by Brussels. So basically, he told them to. He told the officials of the Three Seas Initiative to tell Brussels to fuck off, in terms of.
Not in those words.
Not in those words, but that's pretty much it. That's basically what happened. And that's a very good thing.
I'm sure the good people trademark back home in Romania, and well, I was about to say in Austria as well, but there were just the local elections in Vienna, and the Greens lost badly, and the far right tripled its score.
You're telling our listeners that basically the good people are fewer and fewer in between.
Yes, yes, I am saying that, especially considering the polling following the latest presidential debates back home. And we actually had to interrupt our study of the Romanian presidential campaign so we can study this one here in Poland.
So basically, energy prices make people worse.
Yeah.
Yes,
Evil.
yes, and green policies make people even worse, as Spain has recently found out, and southern France, and Andorra, and Portugal. Well, it happens.
I mean, it's Al-Andalus.
Yeah, to be fair,
The Vandals' country.
Yeah, in Al-Andalus, that's kind of
Now, a new thing that happened. Obviously, officials from Spain were present, but also from Albania.
Well, in Albania it makes sense. I mean, Albania is a gas exploiter, and although their exports are not necessarily significant for now, Albania is still a NATO country. It neighbors Macedonia, which is also a NATO country, and
it has a sea.
And it has a coastline, yes. And although historically the Durse coast was very good for fishing, who says it can't be good for logistics as well? Yeah. At the end of the day, it's been 40-something years since Hoxha died. It's about bloody time to take down the walls and and make a big, beautiful port there.
Yeah, and the good thing right now is that, I don't know if this is necessarily a good thing, but the main discussion today, especially given what just happened while we were recording, like yesterday, the blackout in Spain, Portugal, and a part of France happened, the main talking point was energy. And that comes in the context of Romanian collaboration in the energy sector, in the nuclear energy sector, that was announced a week ago, but for some reason some part of the Romanian press released it today. No, they released it today as being breaking news.
As being part of 3 Cs.
Yeah, it's not part of the 3 Cs.
In theory, yes, but you should be happy. At least they found out about it about a week
after.
Oh yeah, as opposed to several years.
Yeah, and the Romanian press was more present, given it was the regime's press mostly, but they were present, like compared to
some other times.
Well, those money that came from the pandemic.
Subsidies
finally paid off.
Yeah, finally they were put to good use. Now, to be fair, I can understand why the Spanish energy minister wanted to be here, because you wouldn't want to be the energy minister in Spain today.
We don't know if it was the energy minister, but there was a Spanish official, and when the plenary started...
If you're Spanish or non-Spanish and you have an opportunity these days
not to be in Spain. Not to be in Spain.
It's pretty good to not be in Spain, yeah. Yeah, no, but the issue is that the official reason everything was announced by Duda at the beginning of the plenary in Polish without giving us headphones to
hear the translation.
To hear the translation.
You were the camera guys; they couldn't care less.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing.
It was only the camera guys that were allowed there, and we had 3 passes. Like this was a Linz pass, which was Media Pool 3, and I was the cameraman theoretically, and I had Media Pool 1, 2, 3. So I was able to attend more places, but for some reason.
That didn't matter.
That didn't really matter. No. They didn't really care that much. As long as you had a camera or something to present the camera with you, then you basically could go everywhere.
Right. There is this issue that is occurring more and more often. Further in the east, there's still infrastructure for decent broadcasting. But the closer we get to Germany, and especially it gets progressively worse from Germany westwards, it's just no attention is being given to these details. I do remember when I attended several conferences in the Bundestag, and it was roughly the same thing. And eventually they're like, oh yeah, by the way, there are people here who don't speak German. So they had a guy who just tried to translate into English, just speaking over the speaker, and I'm just shut up. So there's
Shut your trap.
yeah, so there's that. I guess last time around we got some reproachment for spending too much time on complaining about the organizing.
Well,
This was worse, but we are not going to do it now. Okay, the organizing now was worse than in Bucharest.
We thought it couldn't be worse than Bucharest or Ljubljana.
But
we
but now
arrived to the conclusion
retrospectively,
Ljubljana was the
it was top. It was top.
top tier.
yeah, and then Bucharest
management.
2018, then third 2023 Bucharest, and fourth dead last 2025 Warsaw.
Jesus fucking.
We don't know yet where the next summit will be because we left a little bit earlier because their press conference
Was a press briefing.
was a press briefing. It wasn't a press conference. They weren't taking questions. So we tried to take some questions from the Romanian president, but he was only available for an informal talk with the journalists, and he basically didn't take any questions.
Can you blame him? He doesn't give a fuck. He's not going to be a president
Pretty
anymore
much.
in a couple of weeks, so...
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, the same can be said about Andrzej Duda. After all, he won't be president
but at
by
least
June.
Andrzej Duda came outside and talked to...
Yeah, he actually took some questions.
Took some questions.
Now, to be fair, both Duda and Bolojan, they do have candidates that they are shilling for back home.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Or here.
yeah. So what that means is basically that you want to be like the engine that will power the campaign of the guy that you're shilling for.
Yeah, Bolojan being the engine to prove power.
I mean, he's well liked in his own bubble, so that's something. And he's liked by
Is it?
part of the population, I guess. But anyways, the idea is that he could have made it in such a way that he would,
He would have
power
been
his campaign.
a bit more likable
Yeah.
if he would take any type of question.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I do get it because you guys told me that he refused certain types of questions because he has the security meeting in a few days back home in Bucharest. It's like, well, we'll make statements after we hold
After the security
after we
meeting,
hold that meeting. And I'm like, yes, but you're the head of that meeting, so aren't you supposed to set the agenda? But then I'm like, hold on a second, if he actually answers it in the middle of an election campaign, considering that the Muhabarat's candidate already has some issues back home and is not certain that he'll be president in the final. By the time I'm publishing this, you guys probably know the result already. We don't. It's probably smart from Bolojan not to say anything. Whereas here, same thing. Mr. Nawrocki is not particularly, what should I call it, enthusiastic. It doesn't generate enthusiasm among the voters. The voters are like, yeah, we're going to vote for this guy just because the rainbow candidate is worse. Anything Andrzej Duda would say that would be mildly controversial would negatively impact.
I don't know the prerogatives of the president here.
Not particularly different from ours.
So basically, meh.
Yeah, but it is roughly the same mentality here in Poland, just like back home in Romania. If one party holds the majority in the parliament, let's try to put a president from the opposite party so it's not to close the system too much. It's very smart, yes.
Yep. It's the same mentality.
But then again, because the opposition now, Prawo i Sprawiedliwość, their candidate, is not particularly generator of enthusiasm.
And the government is held by the other guys.
Yeah, by Platforma, by the liberals. Not saying anything probably helps, and Mr. Andrzej Duda, of course, is getting ready for retirement, but nevertheless, he wouldn't want to just blow everything behind him. He's always been very nice. In 10 years, he had quite a few achievements. Now, strictly on 3C's initiative, and I'm going to get a lot of flack for this, but strictly on 3C's initiative, Klaus Johannes can say the same thing.
Yep.
I mean, the business forum was his idea.
Well, yeah, the business forum.
We attended the inauguration of that 7 years ago.
The business forum right now grew in such a way that it's not only strategical companies that come. I mean, sure, the strategical companies are sponsoring the event, like Transgas did. But as I heard, there were also like smaller companies that are just willing to, increase their interconnectivity on the north-south axis. So that's a good thing. Like, that's probably the best thing that Iohannis did in his entire career as president of Romania.
On geopolitics,
On
probably,
geopolitics,
yes.
probably that's the best thing.
Yeah,
that
the
he,
Three Seas
he
Initiative
did.
business forum.
Increase your influence using money.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. This year, some pretty hefty contracts were sketched, let's say, not negotiated.
Negotiated, yeah. We should expect in the next few months some breaking news about things
some roads in Slovakia, some work on the railways in Ukraine, probably. Step by step. We'll see.
Things are changing, at least in Romania now more than in Poland, because we have to catch them, both in terms of infrastructure and in terms of business interconnectivity, because the Polish companies were first when it comes to trying to connect with the rest, and other Romanian companies are following, which I believe is a good thing. We shall see what happens next. From what we understood, the security concerns of the Intermarium, in terms of military security, that is, were the second talk. The main talk was
when you have Spain at the table.
Pretty much.
Don't talk Eastern Europe security.
Yeah, pretty much. But Spain and Germany weren't important at the meeting.
Yes.
When they were like, they were just there.
Spain is observer status, and Germany is sometimes partner. It depends. I mean, we have to remember, actually, Klaus Iohannis opposed having Germany in the initiative.
You don't talk security when you have Russia's partners.
Yeah, that's true.
At the table.
Yeah, that's
Pretty
true.
much.
That's true.
Yeah, no. So that was. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but the fact that the main concern right now is energy is probably a good thing, given that...
And it's definitely also in itself a security concern.
Yeah.
Particularly for the smaller states of the initiative,
Slovakia
and Moldova and Hungary.
And the Baltics.
Moldova is not yet a member.
No, Moldova is an observing, I think...
No, it's a
partner.
It's partner.
Yeah, whatever. It's a de facto member, let's face it.
It's the backyard of Romania.
Yeah, it is a de facto member. And to be fair, these smaller ones, the Baltics to a certain extent as well, yes. They've been bearing the brunt on the energy prices probably even more than the bigger ones, that will be Poland and Romania. I mean, in Poland and back home in Romania, we do complain a bit about the energy prices, but hey, the lights are still on. And we didn't have fuel rationing.
Well, Spain is a big country and still has no lights on. So
so in that context, the warning from the U.S. administration probably fell like a stone on them, because have you tried grifting on green shit even less? And Spain enduring a week-long blackout because of green stuff probably was like, it wasn't me, boss.
Not my fault.
Speaking of that, the minister of I think it was Tianu, Minister of Energy from Romania, straight up went on record and said that with this green stuff, we're literally funding China. Why the hell are we doing that? Which is very courageous type of conversation for
it's Eastern Europe.
For Romania, Muhabarat, I mean, that was a far-right conspiracy theory a year and a half ago.
Now, the good thing that's happening in Romania, and I do not necessarily see it happening somewhere else, is the fact that in Romania we do invest a lot in nuclear energy. Even those smaller, type.
It's not just the SMRs, but it's also the third. I think the reactor from Chernobyl is.
I know,
due
but
to be upgraded.
we are investing a lot in nuclear energy, which I don't see happening anywhere else in the Three Seas Initiative.
In Hungary they tried, but unfortunately they picked Rosatom as contractor.
Yeah.
So you can imagine how that went.
What?
I'm serious.
Yeah.
Why would you pick as a contractor the company that built Chernobyl?
Üdvözöljük a Magyarországban. Anyway, so and to be fair, in Romania we did have a head start. I mean, we had a nuclear program long before everyone else in the region.
The only countries in Europe that are doing this are Romania and France.
And France, but for roughly the same reason. Both have relatively long tradition on this. compared to pretty much.
We stole some of the
I agree with that.
from the Canadians.
What? Yeah, Canadians.
Oh, come on.
Canadians. So, of course, it wasn't the southern neighbor. Yeah, no, but
it was the South provinces of Canada. Any American?
Come on, that's offensive. We all know Canada is North America's Slovakia. So, in any event.
Well, I do agree that we had this head start, and France had it as well. We are constantly building new projects. We're constantly developing, and it's not only building up new reactors at the Chernobyl station. We are also building new, smaller reactors, the SMR ones.
But
the others are
we're
not
also
doing
working on infrastructure, on transport infrastructure,
Yeah,
railways.
But you have to also remember that we started from a lower point than almost everyone except Bulgaria. So there was a much higher motivation to catch up. Then there's also the issue that the current government in Poland, let's face it, works for Germany.
Yeah.
Therefore,
and they're not even hiding it.
They're not hiding it anymore, yes. So therefore, there's going to be increased frustration on trying to delay Polish nuclear program. It will happen eventually, but it will probably be frustrated and slowed down, slow-walked by the Tusk administration, and I'm sure that's controversial to say, but it's definitely going to be the case.
You can see how much we care.
No, it will be. This will be the case. I mean, I don't expect the Tusk administration to streamline the nuclear program here. I just don't expect that, and I hope I'll be proven wrong, but I don't think I will. And then there's, of course, Hungary, which again tried with Rosatom, and then there's Slovakia that can't afford it, then there's Bulgaria that can't afford it, and then there's Greece that had capital controls until 2021, and it's very difficult to afford it. And then the Baltics again.
Greece might be able to afford it
now, yes.
Yeah.
And then again the Mitsotakis administration only now started being concerned with infrastructure. Until very recently, Greece had bigger concerns. It just is what it is. And then the Baltics, the Baltics, all three of them might be able to afford it together, but being with their geography, until very recently, that was in itself a security concern. Now with Finland in NATO, they'll probably be able to think of these
when it comes to Greece, that's pretty interesting because Greece did have, they inherited a pretty good infrastructure, at least road-wise.
Yes.
Okay, so of course that's not their main issue, their main concern, but when it comes to energy infrastructure, that's not necessarily the case for Greece. And right now they are investing more in the energy infrastructure, and they also have another another problem there, which is also a security concern for the rest of the member states, which is the port that's owned by the Piraeus port that's owned by the Chinese.
By the CCP, yes. The Mitsotakis administration, to be fair, has been trying to fix that. Probably not trying enough yet.
Well, as a joke, they could solve it by building a nuclear power plant next to Piraeus and then blowing it apart.
Right next to the port.
And they solve the problem with the Chinese.
Or have their newly found friend Turkey just help them, have an accident or something.
Yeah,
that could happen.
Like it happened in Lebanon.
Oh well.
To be fair, that was an unironic accident because nobody wanted that to blow up, but it did. So there's that. But yes, and of course, Greece being a much newer member, not just to this incarnation of the Minje project, but generally a newcomer in Eastern European politics. For a long time, the Greeks...
the whole intermarriage.
For a long time, the Greeks just pretended to be a Western European country, and we all knew that wasn't true. And eventually, geography, the geo part of geopolitics, caught up with them, and they're like, hold on a second, we actually have to work with those people. And, we don't neighbor Germany either. We don't neighbor France either. From that perspective, their connectivity, even with neighboring Bulgaria, let alone the rest of the Intermarium, is very low in everything, in roads, in railways, in energy. And now when they want to import energy, especially when they want to import from Romania, they're like, we might actually need something.
Yeah, everybody was sharing news about how Romania and Bulgaria joined the land Schengen area, but no one said anything about Greece, which they joined the land Schengen area too, because
Bulgaria
was the only northern member that was in the EU.
No, but the thing is that
bankrupt state.
no, but the thing is that Greece is the main beneficiary of all this.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, Greece and then Bulgaria. For Romania, it wasn't really a big issue because, oh no, we had to spend 5 minutes, 5 seconds at the Hungarian border. Oh no. But for Greece and Bulgaria, that was a huge issue.
Yeah, but now, as you know, perception is reality. So now more people do want to ship their stuff through the Constanța port rather than the Rotterdam port.
Yes, which bothers the Dutch quite a bit, which I consider that to be a very good thing.
Yes,
the swamp Germans are bothered, therefore that's
anything that bothers the swamp Germans.
Yeah, but speaking of swamp Germans, hey, where Kotsofenesht helmet at? Anyway.
Hey, your princess is still homeschooled?
Probably not by now. They finally managed to crack down at least on some of the Moroccan cartels, and it's just slightly safer. I mean, that's the size of an ant penis.
The problem with that kind of organized crime is, let's put it as my ex-wife said, when you plug a hair from your chin, 6 come back.
Yeah, that is true. Speaking of organized crime, has that come up in any of the discussions?
No.
Because in 23 that was at least a side point.
It didn't because, first of all, the crime is organized throughout
Not
I mean, it was a summit of the organized crime.
not in the official talks.
Yeah, but in the informal ones, of course.
More or less.
A bit. Mostly some of the more Eastern journalists were talking about the fact that the Central Europe becomes more and more safe on the eastern part of the center and more fucked up
in the western part.
On the western part of the center.
The main reason why this wasn't a main issue or a main talk is because this place is, generally speaking, very safe. So it's not necessarily an issue.
And by the way, I heard the girl from Euronews, I think.
Okay.
The blonde one.
Whatever.
Yeah. Complaining.
Why?
She ordered Bolt, and the guy that brought the food was a Polish, not some guy from India that could speak English. She doesn't speak Polish.
Oh no!
Oh no! Anyway,
it was funny for me.
Yeah, the reason I'm asking is because while for now, I think I can speak
Eastern Europe is
I can
safe.
speak for all 13 members of the Three Seas Initiative. All 13 of them are significantly safer than their Western neighbors, for sure. And even in Ukraine, when there is no shelling, it's significantly safer crime-wise than
Austria is sometimes not that safe.
Yes,
but still, by Western European standards, Austria is very safe.
Is very safe, and again, Vienna, just like Warsaw, are the places where you get to meet the aliens. Sometimes literally, sometimes metaphorically. But you know, the wider Austria is a relatively safe place. Yeah. What I'm saying is that this should not be taken for granted.
No, for sure. And they know.
There are multiple threats to this.
They know.
We were chatting with one of our friends 2 days ago in Warsaw about what the shenanigans the Germans are pulling on this country, in particular on Poland, by shipping their diversity across the border.
With the police cars, literally.
Yeah. The German Mukhabarat is sending its dirt around here, and that's
why you need border control. When you
At least with Germany.
When you see the German Mukhabarat trying to cross the border to unload shit,
you should first ask questions.
There is one thing which I still do not get. Now, I do know that I don't get why Austria is still a member. I do know that it was proposed to kick Austria as a member state, and that failed, unfortunately. Yeah. But I do not understand what their purpose is in the initiative, because they are not part of any major project.
Well, they're not, because they were supposed to be at something called the RUA, the gas pipeline. And then the Austrians pulled shenanigans against Romania at the EU level.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, and when we just cut the A from the BRUA, so now the pipeline is
BRU.
It's still probably going to be BRUS, S from Slovakia, rather than A from Austria. And then after that, there was still hope that we could mend the relationship. That's why that vote failed. But if it will be held up to a vote next year,
after the shit they did for the Schengen.
It wasn't just Schengen, but yes, the Schengen was the thing that.
Especially if Simeon ends up being president.
The Schengen thing was the issue that broke the camel's neck, the camel's spine, whatever.
The straw,
the
broke
straw,
the camel's
whatever.
back.
Yeah. So after that, Austria was just it's there. Get a nicer government, then maybe we can talk. And they didn't. So therefore. Now, of course, there is also the problem, and you guys explained it to me before we started filming, that, of course, all 13 countries are, at least in theory, democracies, which means sometimes governments and administrations change. Like, for instance, the current president of Croatia is nowhere near to the level of openness of Kolinda Grabar-Kitarovic, for sure.
Even Andrzej Duda can't stand the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and Andrzej is a great guy that talks to basically everybody.
Yes, but the current president of Croatia is kind of haram. And the next Polish president, whether it will be Rafał Trzaskowski or Mr. Nawrocki, will have a similar relationship with the current president of Croatia. Similarly with Austria.
Try not being pro-Russian.
Not that much, yeah.
In public.
Same thing with Austria. I mean, when they were allowed in, the government at that time was much more open to, integrating into our way of life, let's put it this way. And then they got the chancellor that pulled shenanigans against Romania and Bulgaria, and now they basically don't have a government. They'll probably go full Bulgaria and just repeat the elections several times.
I don't see a problem.
I don't see a problem necessarily, but from a political perspective, that is an issue when it comes to this format, the 3 Seas initiative format. Okay. For the other format, which we call it B9, which is NATO related, that won't be an issue, especially since you can't have Austria there.
Even for this format, because at the next summit, they could just kick Austria out.
Yeah, that's probably going to be a discussion. If by next year, if by next year Austria doesn't get a more friendly government, that's probably going
a sane government.
Yeah, or at the very least, not a straight up hostile one. Yes, I suppose.
I mean, kick them out. They're useless anyway.
At this point, yes, but hopefully that.
Do they have any gas?
No.
Do they have any cereal or grain or whatever?
In the mountains? They're the mountain Germans.
Okay. What can they...
militarily they're not particularly relevant.
They're not a NATO member.
I truly see
so why are they in the...
No, but I truly see their membership as being a security concern and a security breach, given how pro-Russian both the people and the governments tend to be in Austria.
If we are to quote the guy who founded Bellingcat, there are more Russian agents in Vienna than the local police.
Pretty much, yeah.
That's
one thing, and I wouldn't mind having a Schengen area with Hungary, Bulgaria, with any of the intermarium states. But I would mind having one with Austria, Germany, or even Italy, because...
Italy...
If it's through Slovenia, fine. If it's through Austria, no.
No, yeah, exactly, yeah.
I don't want the clients of Moscow being part of any...
strategic conversation for Eastern Europe, yes.
Exactly.
Yes.
Any economic, military, whatever.
Yeah, maybe we can discuss how to do theater together or some other cultural issues, maybe, sometimes.
If you're not too degenerate.
And if you don't do too much Kazachok, I suppose. But
one thing that, we didn't really get to ask, that's a shame, maybe next year, we didn't ask about Serbia, because it is time for Serbia to become a member state.
It is.
Also given the fact that their entire population starts to shift their view as in not being so pro-Russian.
They have an important
it would have been
ammo
unthinkable. I know, but it would have been unthinkable to see such a shift in the population
10 years ago.
4 years ago, it would have been unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, what was it, 7 years ago when I looked at Mr. Vucic, he was standing like 20 meters away from me, Vladimir Vladimirovich right next to him. And Vucic being like, Serbia will always serve the interest of our main strategic partner, Russia. And then the pandemic hit, and then the war hit, and then the Serbian military-industrial complex officially sells weaponry to Romania and Czechia. What do you think we do with it?
We have a war on the dark side of the moon, where we use all the Soviet ammo.
Yes. The thing is that de facto Serbia is already aligned with the Intermarium goals,
and the new government that might replace Vucic's government.
Well, Vucic is not up for re-election, but his government is.
His government. I'm talking about. The new government. That's even if the opposition wins, the opposition is even in fact more anti-Russian than the current one, and the current one is making significant changes in that direction. So
they have to.
Obviously, I'm not saying that they necessarily want to.
Yeah.
But Russia's 2,000 miles away,
I just want to basically put it out there that there's a very significant difference between Serbia and Austria. Because in Serbia, the government and the people are changing because, well, first of all, the government has to, and the people are just have a shift in their view towards Russia. Whereas in Austria, that's really not the case.
Yeah, definitely.
And the Intermarium can be basically...
If we really have to have 13 states, it can be Serbia and not Austria.
We have that joke with good times create weak people. Well, in Austria, they had good times.
Yeah, I know. They have the weak people. Yeah, I know.
Creating hard times.
In Serbia...
they had the strong people, and they're creating good times.
They have to create the...
they had the hard times.
It's different civilizational stages.
Exactly. Basically, you can persuade Serbia more or less into thinking like us than you can with Austria. And the whole Three Seas initiative idea is fuck Russia and fuck Germany. So
hey, you're not supposed to say that. It's merely a presidential platform to discuss. It doesn't have. It's not supposed to be military. Of course, it is. But
so fuck Russia and fuck Germany, and you cannot have that with Austria.
Yes. Okay.
We love Germany so much that we want more Germany.
Yes, more Germany, please.
Several more Germanys.
I wouldn't mind colonizing Eastern Germany as part of the Three Seas initiative. Eastern Germany
if it's only
our colony.
Yeah, if it's the former DDR, that can be in the Intermarium. The rest
without Berlin, please. That's a shithole.
Now, come on, you're being too harsh on this. But anyway, of course, Berlin is terrible. David, well, I suppose one last thing is, so we don't know for sure where the next summit will be. If I'm to guess, it will be Croatia.
Maybe.
And the reason is not just because you left early. This year it was supposed to be held in Budapest, and it wasn't. So this also becomes a thing. By the way, who was the president from Hungary?
The president.
Ah, right. I always try to remember the name of the Hungarian president, and
it's some guy.
I did find I did hear the name because there was a Hungarian
Do you remember
photographer. No, there was a Hungarian photographer next to me and asked what's the
name.
You
just met the guy and you still don't remember his name.
Asked what's the name.
I met the two previous presidents of Hungary, but not this one.
I remembered the Gauls president.
Yeah, the previous one.
The previous one.
Yeah, the former
Katalin.
Yeah, Katalin.
Novak.
Yeah. The former Minister of Justice.
Not because she was a president. She just looks good.
Yes, and she would visit us routinely.
Routinely.
Yeah.
Even for her own holidays.
Yeah. And that's why we remember her. But the current president.
Yeah. Now,
sorry.
I do also think that there needs to be a change because there were some. Technically, this is a presidential meeting, so it's only the presidents that are meeting.
Heads of state, yes.
But this year it was different because there were also people from from countries where their president didn't attend, but prime ministers or other ministers they did attend. So maybe that could change. I'm mainly focusing here on Hungary because who the fuck knows who's the president of Hungary?
Not
But
only that,
everybody
but
knows
I
the
have-
prime
The
minister.
Hungarians.
Yeah, there are many.
If we start 100, if we stop 100 people in Debrecen and ask who's the president, we might only get 60 correct answers.
Yeah. So, in that area, maybe this should change as well. Like, just bring the heads of the state, like
The person that holds
the
executive
literal
power.
heads of the state, not the presidents.
I get it. The one who holds executive power
Exactly.
rather than the ceremonial role.
Don't bring me the president of Italy.
Yeah, that would be also
They
weird.
have a president.
Yes, they do. Mr. Napolitano, I
yeah.
think.
Okay.
Giorgio Napolitano. He'll be like 90-something when he'll finish his second term.
Bring me but
Isn't
The
this the
prime-
guy that was
prime
popular in
minister.
the Italian politics in like the mid
The
2000s?
50s?
No.
No, more like the 50s. Yeah, I mean, he's older than the Republic. Totally not joking. The current Italian Republic is younger than the current president. So there's that. Now, to be fair, the reason we insist on having it as a presidential platform is because, well, the founding members are Croatia, Poland, and Romania, and all three of them tend to have this format of semi-presidential republic.
Yes, but now Croatia doesn't matter that much because they
Yes.
went to.
And not only that,
basically.
but the projects that concern them are finished.
Yes.
So, yeah.
yeah, but what I told you in the car, presidents are temporary.
Yeah.
This
the
kind
administration
of
remains.
these
I know,
kind
yeah.
of treaties long surpass the
Obviously.
Outlast the president.
Obviously.
outlast
yeah.
the presidential terms.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, keep them there. Okay,
But
you,
just bring in the executive with
Exactly.
you
Yeah,
sometimes.
that's what I'm saying.
you can marginalize the stupid presidents, but keep the country in.
Yeah, of course.
Don't let the fucking Russians
Yeah.
corrupt them in other type of any treaties.
Yeah, but 2 years ago in Romania, it was actually a surprising example of cooperation. I mean, in 2019, Iohannis didn't show up because he was busy arguing with the prime minister. But then in 2023, the whole business forum was straight up surrendered to the government.
Yeah.
And then the executive was concerned with the business forum rather than the presidency.
Guess what?
Which wasn't a bad idea in the end.
No.
It didn't look good then politically, but if you look at
yeah,
the
but
results,
the-
it wasn't that bad.
The government does the business.
Yeah.
They sign the contracts.
Yeah, and after all, if it requires some budgetary approval, it's the government that can do
Yeah.
it. It's not the presidency
So-
for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't like it.
So granted,
It looked bad at the time.
this is probably the one good thing that he did during his 2 terms, the Romanian president, Iohannis, I'm speaking.
He did too. He created B9.
Yeah.
And the
to-
business forum, the
And the
three
business
SI
forum.
business forum, yes.
Yeah, but the B9 comes as a complementary treaty to NATO, whereas the business forum comes as an innovation in and of itself.
But to
B9
be
is
fair,
military.
Three Seas initiative, at first it was a complementary to the Eastern EU.
Yeah.
And now it's a straight up screw Brussels.
Yeah, pretty much.
So there's that.
Fuck those guys.
Yes, and B9
B9 is military.
is military, but it also acts as an American fifth column in Europe. I mean, come on, let's face it. Just like the Meloni administration in Rome. So,
Wasn't she the fifth column of Putin?
yeah, that turned out to be a lie. Who knew? I mean, there is an interview with me on V's channel just a week before the Italian election, where he asked me, he was like, "Oh, aren't you scared about it?" No, I mean, she'll be a great prime minister. But you know, breach of human rights, nah, that won't happen. She'll be an American fifth column, and that's exactly what it turned out to be. And at the time, there was the panic that she'll be a Putin's fifth column. I just hope the same will be true in Romania after the election.
Well, no.
'cause there's plenty of hysteria back home. Some of it
to be
feels
fair,
like
no
a
matter
campaign.
who will win the presidency, all of them are pretty pro-American, as expected given the population.
Unless Mr. Ponta wins.
I don't think Ponta will win.
And to be fair, Mr. Antonescu was pretty anti-EU, but not necessarily anti-US when he was.
Yeah, no, and even Ponta is. I mean, yeah, he has his Chinese friends, but he lives as a pro-Trump guy now. So
He LARPs. That's
I know.
the problem.
I know, yeah.
To be fair, Potak and LARP are pro anything and anti anything.
Yeah,
he's
he's like-
Albanian at the end of the day.
He's
I
basically
don't
like.
think he remembers how many times he changed that base.
No, but he's like, I'm always with the guys that are winning, you know? He's like,
Yeah,
he's
he's-
like that friend that doesn't watch football, but he like celebrates every goal, you know? It's like, that's pretty much it.
Yeah, so in effect, he's like the standard Russian. He respects strong leadership. It doesn't matter who the leadership is. So there's that.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing that at least for the next
At least
5
one
years,
of the crazy guys is not.
Yeah, no, but for the next 5 years, at least from the Romanian point of view, when it comes to both government and presidential administration, will still be supporting the initiative, the Three Seas initiative.
For sure.
And
I certainly do expect that. There were some rumors that President Trump would attend. I was completely not surprised at all that he did not. Yeah. He'll probably attend CPAC in Poland, which is about a month from now. But other than Mr. Witkoff, I've noticed several American companies that were having their official cars at the business forum. So there's that. The U.S. presence economically was big, but politically was barely noticeable this year.
So,
what do you make of this?
Well, it's the money talks.
Yeah, it's basically the money.
Money talks, bullshit walks. Yeah, that's true.
The empires are built on coin, not always on
and
guns.
toil.
To be fair, Trump needed to come to the last summit that was held in Poland because the initiative itself needed a push.
Yeah, and it was at the beginning.
And
now it wasn't necessary.
It wasn't necessary.
Wasn't that necessary.
No,
it would have been a great asset.
Huge alliance in Eastern Europe. So
it would have been a great asset if he would have come, but not with the same intent that he did 9 years ago.
yeah,
or
but
7
he
years
could
ago,
have
whatever.
sent at least
Something.
an important message.
Yeah, but
He should have said Marco Rubio, wasn't he?
Probably.
Or Vance.
Or Vance, yeah. I mean,
Probably.
Not Vance. I don't want to see Andrei Duda buried yet.
yeah, but he could have said Marco Rubio just like he sent Pompeo in Bucharest. Yeah. Probably Marco. But to be fair, Marco Rubio is busy in Saudi Arabia talking with Russia these days, so he can't.
But it wasn't.
Here is closer to Russia.
Who?
Here is closer to Russia.
Yes,
you
but
cannot really have Russian.
Yeah, but
talks
the
here.
Russians won't to accept holding talks
No,
here.
like
No, but
last time the
you
Russians
can fly to Minsk.
Yeah, for sure. But last time when Russians held talks here, it was called the Warsaw Pact, and you know how that ended. So there's some bad blood on both sides of the border when it comes to this city. So.
Yeah, no, but
Okay, that was me. I know.
This time it would have been Americans and Russians, not Germans and Russians.
That's true, but seriously, we can't expect Vladimir Vladimirovich to show up here ever again.
No.
I mean, that won't happen. Just
No,
simply
but
won't happen.
I'm just saying that basically the U.S. political presence wasn't that necessary because nowadays this place keeps becoming more
Not the
and
head
more
of the
independent.
state.
Not the head of the state,
Not the head, but an emissary from
no,
the
but-
empire is always
Yeah,
welcome.
but the emissary was right, which
Yeah.
basically just came here.
I know he was right, and the message was correct.
No, I'm not saying he was right. His name is right.
Both, actually.
Both, yeah. Yeah, no, but he was here and he did what was necessary.
Yeah.
He was like, guys,
The
screw the European Brussels shitholes that are
The
telling you what to
Sultan sent the
do.
Romania Bay.
His message was clear, like screw those guys and do your own thing and become energy independent because, well, you need to and we need to as well because you're the border of the empire. So
Yes, and ultimately this is going to be a tough pill to swallow in Brussels, but they'll have to swallow it, if not now, in a few years.
If not, there is always the other end of the digestive tract to get the pill.
That's also true. It's a tough pill to swallow, but ultimately everyone will have to admit something that is self-evident. Energy is civilization.
Yeah.
A civilization exists if it has more energy. If it has less energy, then it's
And
more...
it needs, as Spain learned these days, stable networks.
well, yes, that's
gee,
true.
who would have thought?
Yeah, to be fair, the Spaniards were deeply unlucky with this one, but it's mostly their fault. It's mostly their fault. Nobody asked them to sign up to
50 gigawatts.
yeah, of quote unquote green energy.
Like
which,
that.
Yeah, which overloaded the network, and now everyone has to suffer a few days without electricity. To be fair, we've seen this movie before, at least the two of us. You know, the Spaniards are newer to this game, so you know, we're like in that meme first time.
Yeah.
They live through this. I don't want to experiment it. So
You can take a trip to Ecuador and you get to experiment scheduled blackouts between 8 and 24 hours long. It depends on how.
I think it would be interesting as an experience in the other corner of the planet, but I don't want it home.
The Spaniards nowadays are experiencing communism.
Well, to be fair, they've been voting socialism for so long, and now they're finally getting some of it, some
Well,
decent
you
stuff.
fucked around long enough to find out.
Pretty much. All right, so this was the immediate reaction. We had to film it right after the summit because he's flying back to Romania faster than
And the
than we
memories
did.
are
And the memories are fresh.
Yeah.
Speaking of memories, did I forget anything?
I don't think so. And if you did, you'll just cover it up.
Yeah, no, not cover it up. That means in English. That
I'm tired.
yes. I'll come back with a more I'll come back with a more structured video for sure, and with several other footage from the summit. Thank you guys for your work today. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all soon. Cheers.
Yeah.